Let's see if we have anyone. We do have we have us.
We have
And
us?
Stella.
Well, let's just start talking.
Stella and Gwen. Stella and Gwen are here.
Hey, Stella and Gwen.
Hey.
Stella and Gwen in the house.
Lindsay, Terry.
And Lindsay.
And Terry.
And Terry.
All right.
Well, Terry's my sister, and I can hear the feedback in the living room, so she's going to have to turn that down. I have some family that arrived. I'm not going to tell you where they're from, but we're social distancing. I'm in the office. They're in the living room. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Oh, and Evergreen Adventure Foods joined us.
I told Evergreen they need to raise their hand and like come in here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you want to come on in?
Definitely.
Yeah, where are they at?
And actually, while we're talking about them, I think they would be some good people to have on both of your podcasts.
Oh, we do.
What they're doing in the backpacking food industry is going to make the big boys rethink what they're doing.
Well, I have a little secret for you. I recorded them, so they're coming out.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
They're going to be part of, the Entrepreneurs Inspired by the Trail. We recorded them last week. And on Monday, a really cool thing with them is I had Neville from Woods Hole on live, and I think they've connected with Neville now because Neville's going to start like a food pantry at Woods Hole for hikers, so they don't have to go into town. And they kind of connected like, Benny, like you, I am the glue that is starting to connect. Yes. So you connected Evergreen Adventure Foods. I connected Evergreen to Woods Hole. And now I'm going to pass, the great connector. But I see them in here, but I don't see, they're not here.
Yeah. I don't know.
They probably just stepped away for a second. And
they're probably like, hey, I didn't ask to be put on the spot.
Hey, they did what I do at work. I turn on the computer and then I come back and refresh it like every once in a while. It makes it seem like I'm there. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and they also have Jelly Belly that's probably running around the house like chasing her and trying to catch her.
All right.
The luxuries of having like a small child in the house.
No, Lori, you should totally have them on, but you're going to have to wait till after June the 13th because that's when the episode's coming out with them. So you can have them in July. We share people. I love sharing people. I think it's great. We share Johnny. Wait a minute. We haven't shared Benny though.
Yeah. Well, you've had him on live. You just haven't had him.
I need to be on the podcast.
Yeah. You need to bring him on the podcast.
Yes, you do. Yeah. You have an open invitation. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. I'm going to be, which I just was on the Backpacking Experience podcast. That was a fun podcast to do. That just aired this past week. And I just talked to the Trail Brothers, and I'll be on their podcast kind of thing. We're going to record it Tuesday. So who knows when it'll come out. But yeah, I mean, they asked me.
Hey, I see somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, they asked me a long time ago. I just forgot about it.
Is there anybody else on here we need to introduce ourselves? Because we're just like talking.
Yeah. No, I have Gwen, Lindsay, Stella, and Terry. I think they know us.
Gwen and Lindsay. Okay. I don't know Gwen and Lindsay.
I know Lindsay.
Okay. Hey, Lindsay.
I don't know if I know anybody or not.
Everybody knows you, so that's all that matters.
I get so many people walk up to me and just start up conversations like they've known me since birth.
Oh,
and I play along.
Talk?
Oh, Lindsay. Lindsay's in.
She raised her hand.
All right.
So, okay, Lori, let's tell who we are. Let's tell who we are.
Yep. All right. So I'm Lori. I'm the host of the Hike Podcast. I'm, just a lover of all things hiking, Smoky Mountains. So that's why I started the podcast. I started Hike Magazine. So some of you don't know about that, do you? I think that's kind of the secret. I had the Hike Magazine. So that's how I started doing the podcast. Keep going.
I don't know. The guys are waiting. So I'm Julie Jester Gayhart. I actually have a podcast called Jester Section Hiker. I'm a huge section hiker and fan of the Appalachian Trail and all national scenic long distance trails. I'm more known for someone that took forever to hike the AT 12 summers, and therefore section hiker, trying to get out section hiker stories on the podcast. And really, like everybody else, just love all things hiking, the Smokies, eastern part of the United States. When I'm done here, I'm going to move to the western part of the United States and pick up there, and just love hiking pretty much. I don't know, Benny or Johnny.
I'll go last. I'm good.
All right. I'm Johnny, also known as Johnny on the Trail, and I like to hike. I mean, Smoky Mountain 900 miler, Southern Sixer, many miles of hiking and backpacking.
And Johnny likes to carry a really, really, really heavy pack.
No, Johnny used to carry a heavy pack. Johnny doesn't do it anymore.
With stuff dangling off the back of it.
And Biddy knows something y'all don't know about my pack too, though. So,
what's that?
Oh, I'm not going to talk about it today.
It's nice.
Uh-huh.
It's nice. Well, I'm Benny Braden, also known as Plug It In. All my social media, things like that, Plug It In Hikes. I guess you could say I'm the water boy of the group. And I enjoy playing that role. I'm the water boy and beer boy.
Beer boy.
So, but yeah, I guess I'm known for doing a few hikes there in the Smokies. Fastest 900 miler. Yeah. Did fastest 900 miler twice. Got a couple good friends that are getting ready to try to break that here, hopefully this year, in raising money for the Smokies rescue team. So that's kind of cool. And I don't know. I'm known for Tennessee, Highline, and this.
So Stella wants to know the drink word of the night.
Lori.
Lori. To Lori.
Now see, we got Toast down there from Evergreen. My people.
Yeah, Eric Matos here. My wife Jessica and I started the company Evergreen Adventure Foods. For those of you that don't know us, we are avid hikers. Funny story about Jessica and I, we had only been dating about 4 months before we started long distance hiking together. So we found out really quick whether we were compatible or not. And yeah, we stuck together ever since, wound up getting married, having many adventures together, both on US soil and overseas. And we have a little 2-year-old baby named Finley. Her trail name is Jelly Belly. And yeah, it's been a wonderful adventure.
And Jelly Belly is already a through hiker.
Yep.
Really?
Of the of the Tahoe Rim Trail.
Yeah, when she was 4 months old, we weren't going to stop hiking if we were physically able to continue, and we were. And so Jelly Belly was healthy, Mom was healthy, and at 4 months we decided Jessica and I originally had a plan to go to hike Iceland together. When we found out we were pregnant, we were going to wait until the birth and then make sure everything was okay, and then do a more local trip around Tahoe, which is a little bit easier logistically with a baby. So when she was 4 months old, we strapped her on the front and strapped our packs on the back and headed to Reno, shuttled down to the lake, and started around the Watson Lake area. And made our way around in the Sierra.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's
it looks
amazing.
like we have Ina. Ina says, "Hey there, hiker trash." Well, you know what? I think that deserves a little sip. Don't you think so, Lori?
That means there's 2 sips because you also said Lori.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know.
Just so you know, Ina, we all have a drink. Everybody show your drink.
I'm keeping it smart, though.
And as we as we have our hiker chat this evening, every time you hear the word Lori, or the name Lori, you have to drink. So there you go.
All right.
And
So
Lindsay's on here, and we don't see Lindsay. There's no face with Lindsay.
I think she doesn't want to talk.
Okay.
I don't know. Lindsay, you tell us.
Around.
Okay. All right. We're going to, we'll leave you up there. If you want to say hi, say hi.
You know what else? We got to tell people how to like ask questions and stuff.
Yes.
We always forget that part.
So I think people know there's a chat down at the bottom that you can go in and chat, and then also there's a Q&A. So the Q&A, we'll look at those. One of us will sound it out and we'll answer it live.
And if they want to come in, they raise their gesture hikes. What's that picture? Oh, the sticker or the actual like picture?
I think this picture.
This actually, it's actually pretty big. I actually had this made. It's actually all wood, and the mountains and everything the frame is wood, the background is wood, the mountains are wood. I had it made by a guy that makes barn doors. It's, if you want to look him up, it's called Jack Cow Wood Shop, and his dog's name is Jack Cow, and he named his whole thing after the dog. It's all Jack Cow Wood Shop. He does barn doors. He's based out of North Carolina. And I saw this picture in his house and called him, and I told him I needed that picture. So he basically designed me my own picture. It's so heavy. It took like 3 of us to like get it in the house and get it hung up. So it's never coming off this wall. Like, it's just impossible. So it's actually going to go with the house.
There you go.
When I leave to move out west and hike there for the rest of my life. Wake up, Benny.
Spreading the word. See if we can't get a few more people in here.
I think I accidentally removed Lindsay. I'm sorry. Oh, shoot.
Oops.
I know. I think I
Sorry,
screwed that
Lori,
up.
what are we supposed to be talking about?
Trail etiquette.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good one because, well, we'll leave the Smokies up to the Smoky guys. But I know for North Carolina, they're saying on Saturday, pretty much all state parks, everything is going to open back up. There's going to be particular protocols. But I'm sure everybody wants to know about the Smokies because they're opening up this weekend as well. So I have to acquiesce to you guys for that.
Yeah, I mean, the Smokies are opening up. They're kind of limiting, shelters, and kind of limiting how many people can stay at certain campsites and things of that nature. I think I kind of heard that maybe there's 1 or 2 locations in the park that they've not really announced yet. Kind of like Mount Cameron or Mount Sterling, something like that, whether those trails will be open or something like that. I just glanced at Facebook one day and just kind of seen that come across. Didn't really pay no attention to it, just because I hadn't planned on going there anytime soon. I plan on letting some of this die down because I know there's going to be like this mass influx of people and nobody's going to be listening to what the Park Service is saying, because typically what the Park Service deals with is mostly tourists, and trail etiquette is foreign to them. You might as well be speaking another language. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to like diss tourists or anything like that, but we all see it. All your touristy trails, especially in the Smokies, like Trillium Gap or Alum Cave, or even like Abrams Falls, the trails that most of your tourists are hitting are usually the ones you see the most trash on. You see cups, I've seen a towel hanging from up in a tree that someone just threw. You just see just horrible things, and it's coming from tourists because no hiker would ever even dream of throwing a cup down, especially like a Burger King cup or something like that. So, it's not, someone that typically knows leave no trace. And maybe as hikers, maybe we need to do a better job at helping tourists understand that. However you choose to do it, try not to be like, I don't know. Sometimes I want to grab like a big stick. You know.
I mean, I even think too, maybe, yesterday was out, with my sister and, we were on the trail and she's like, hey, talk to people about trail etiquette. And I said, well, even on your local trails, it's like even knowing like the right of way of the trail, basically no matter what, if you see somebody coming, if you're with a family, go single file, stay to the right. If you see somebody coming down the trail, always go to the right. If you're going up a hill and somebody's coming down a hill, you always acquiesce to the person that, is climbing the hill. If you're going down, that kind of thing. I know a big problem here at our local parks are dogs. And I'm the first person, I love dogs. I love everybody's dogs until they start coming at me because they're not on leash. So, and that can be an issue because a lot of times if you're hiking on trail, you'll see the dog before you'll see the owner, especially if they're not on leash. So it's like, hey, if you're at your local park, keep the dog on the leash and take your poop bags with you.
Oh yeah.
When,
please,
when you pick up the poop or whatever, I mean, don't leave them on the ground. No one's coming to pick that stuff up. So it's all those little things too, no matter where you go, that, you can help make an impact as we all start, flocking to trails and wherever we're going.
Yeah, I was in the Smokies once camping at a campsite, and I had two people camping there with me. It was a father and a son. You could tell they didn't have much experience, at backpacking. This was something new that they were trying to get into and just simply didn't know the rules, didn't know etiquette per se. And when it came to lunchtime or dinner time and they're cooking their food, the dad just starts throwing this trash in the fire pit, and was just going to walk away and leave it. And I think he said something like, "What do we do with our trash? Just throw it in the fire pit?" And we're like, "No, you pack it out." He goes, "Doesn't somebody come and pick it up?" Like, "No, you pack it out. You brought it in, you take it out." And I've seen that once before. Me and a friend of mine, Sid, were at Mount Collins shelter, and almost an identical same situation came in. Two people there that typically don't hike. One of them was like, "What do we do with our trash? Just throw it in the fire pit?" I'm like, "No, you pack it out." And they were shocked that people didn't come behind them and pick things up. It's like, we're not your mama. Pick your stuff up and take it out with you.
Maybe a tip too for people is like, I will take 2 Ziplocs, right? I'll take the stuff that maybe has like food or personal items in it, and then an empty one so that I can put all my trash in there, like a big gallon size. So things like that. It's just helping people understand, to prepare, right? Because no one wants that dirty trash like just stuffed in with their clean stuff. So you got to have something to put it in.
Yeah, whenever I'm through hiking, I do that. I carry like an extra large Ziploc baggie and I throw all my trash in it. Once I get to a trail town, I dump it, continue to carry the bag with me. Now, when we were in Turkey, our friends Neil and Marie, they had these bags made up, kind of like those reusable grocery bags that you can take to the grocery store. They had those made up with their logo and everything on it. And part of the process was, by the time you made it to the next town, you need to have that bag filled up, and it was really easy to fill that bag up because unfortunately in Turkey, there was a lot of areas that people just didn't really care about, throwing trash away properly, and there would be like garbage everywhere. So it's really easy to find garbage. But on the issue of the dogs, the Smokies, you're not supposed to have them. There's only 2 trails that you're allowed to have them on. I think that's the Gatlinburg Trail and the Oconee Lofty Trail. Outside that, you're not supposed to have them in the backcountry. And I've seen people, even hikers that know better, taking their dogs up to Mount LeConte. I mean, to me, you've
seen a dog on Mount LeConte? Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a big hike with a group, and this person took their dog up to there. Not only there, but also took it to Rocky Top, up on top of that one. So it's just very aggravating because as hikers, we're to be setting examples, not bad ones, good ones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think for the community in general, I think we all have to be on our best behavior,
Well, Evergreen
not
Adventure
try to be
Foods,
selling
they
it.
have some stuff you can put in your fire, right?
Yeah, no
Mhm.
kidding. And to piggyback off what Benny was saying, it's our responsibility as experienced hikers to get the word out. And there's a way to do it too. It's not in your face all the time and, hey, what are you doing making people feel bad? But, I can guarantee you pretty much everyone I've ever spoken to that has volunteered their child, who has volunteered their child or volunteered themselves to go, stick a shovel in the ground or go help clean up trash or go help do one of these associations, that it's definitely not them doing it. But there's a way to talk to the people that you see that are blatantly throwing trash in the fire. I've seen it a million times. Part of the reason why we started, our business. It's aggravating. It's frustrating. You're always going to have that, especially with this big influx of people coming into, our public lands now. Now, some of the movies have come out and people are writing books. And as the years go by, it's just going to get more popular because people understand the benefits of being out in nature. So you're right, Benny. It is our job as ambassadors of public lands to spread the word, be responsible,
Absolutely.
Raise your children right. That goes without saying, and do the right thing.
Yeah, and when you're in those parks, if they have extra rules or whatever, like no pets, abide by that. Number one, in Smokies, you can be fined. And, occasionally there for a while, I was stopping people and saying, hey, you're not supposed to have dogs in the backcountry. You could actually get fined. And the rangers do patrol these trails. And sometimes they'll turn around and go back. And sometimes they're like, I don't care what you say. I've actually heard people say that, like, you're not the boss of me. Like, I'm not trying to be a boss. I'm just trying to give you a heads up that I just passed a ranger back there and you're about to get it. But go ahead.
Yeah.
You try to say.
Does Lori, somebody wants to know if Lori has a dog. Does Lori have a dog?
I do. I have a little Chihuahua.
Oh my goodness. Uh-oh, I said Lori. You know what that means, everyone.
Yeah. That's why Stella's asking all the questions.
I don't know Stella, but I like her already.
Wait, we have a Cuban on the trail. Gwen, Ina, of course, Lindsay. Mad Hippies. Anybody know Mad Hippies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Hey, if you guys raise your hands, let's go. Come on in, right?
Yep.
Might as well.
Good move. Wait, BMT or Pinhoti for
Pinhoti.
beginners. A Cuban on the trail.
Yes.
Bit Mackay or Pinhoti for beginners. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Bit Mackay is a great, through hiker kind of shakedown hike, give you a chance to see what roughly the AT is about. If you're in the green tunnel a lot, you do come across some aggressive bald here and there. Do get to kind of go into an area to resupply once in a while. Just a small little bit of a road walk, not too much. I think it's and it'll kick your butt because unfortunately, especially the Georgia section of the AT, you don't really believe in switchbacks. So you're doing this and you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Pinhoti Trail, if you have any questions whatsoever about the Pinhoti Trail, get a hold of Nathan and Kim at the Pinhoti Outdoor Center. They have a center down there right at the start of the trail, right before Flag Mountain. I don't know where they are right now. They do have a hostel. I'm not sure the rules of Alabama and what's going on with that, but they are known to, they will shuttle you. They will help with resupply. They're the ones to contact for the Pinhoti Trail. And they love, love, love people coming down to the Pinhoti Trail. And Nathan is a section hiker. And he was supposed to be finishing the AT this year, but Baxter State Park is actually closed for now, until August or something. So he's not going to be able to do that. But yes, Pinhoti Trail, get a hold of those guys down there, Pinhoti Outdoor Center.
Good deal.
Oh, Mad
Pinhoti's
Hippies
on my list.
Yes.
They
I
raised
want to
their
do the
hand.
Pinhoti too.
So I'm letting them in.
Mad Hippies, you're in, but we can't hear you.
Unmute.
It's all new to me. I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Welcome to the club.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Let's ask Lori.
Yeah. Hey. Lori, what do we do? Oh no, I said it again.
This
Miss
is
Primo, what do we do?
Miss Primo.
Miss Hike Podcast, what do we do?
All right. So let's talk more about trail etiquette. So we talked about the kind of the dog situation. We talked about the trash. I think one of the things that's going on is because all of the, a lot of people are still in shelter in place, right? So even with that, they've said, oh, but you can go hike. So everyone's kind of taken upon themselves to go hike who maybe had never hiked before. So in those cases, how do we kind of help them when we see them? Because I think one of the things, like Benny, you were talking about confronting people in a sense, but you doing it in a way that's not going to get you in a fight, right? But that's kind of a, what do you call it? Like it's a sensitive kind of thing. So does anyone have any tips or kind of what they do when they are in that situation of someone who's clearly unprepared to be out on the trail?
I think as ambassadors, for public lands, I think we've got to carry that message and carry it and help deliver it in a way that's not going to be offensive. Number one, just because we're out there and we've hiked thousands of miles doesn't mean, we're like the trail gods or anything of that nature, or that we're the president of the trail. All it just means is that we've just happened to be on there a little bit. We've had that opportunity to learn some of those lessons the hard way, I'm sure. I mean, we were all beginners at one point. We all had no idea how to do it at one point. So we've all made the mistakes. And I think it's important to understand that how are they going to learn unless someone teaches them? Yeah. The only way they're going to learn is if you deliver it, with humility and kindness. Someone's not going to listen to you whenever you're trying to cram it down their throat.
Mm-hmm. And I think so too. Yeah. I mean, if you're at shelters with people, if you're camping with people, and the Smokies is always a prime example because especially when you're on the AT, the Smokies in general, you have to stay at designated campsites, and you may end up at a particular campsite with 10, 15, I don't know how they're going to do it now, but even hanging your bear bag, because it is etiquette for everybody to hang their food on the provided cables at whatever shelter you're at. And I've even had to have conversations with people like, look, I'm not comfortable sleeping in here with you and all your food and your Spam and your potted ham that you bought and everything you opened inside the shelter. Not only do we not want to leave a trace in the trail, I don't want you to leave a trace in the shelter for the people that are going to spend the night there the next night. The next night when we leave, yes, let's all hang our food. And I've, had to spend the night in shelters before with people that say, no, I'm not going to. And those are tough situations. Yeah,
I've got a friend. He spends a lot of time backpacking in the Smokies, or at least staying in the shelters. And we call him, we kind of tease him and say he's a resident, shelter dweller.
Wait a minute, is that Johnny?
No.
Okay.
I know who he's talking about, though.
But he won't hesitate. If you're eating your food back where you're supposed to be sleeping, he'll make you get out. He's like, no, out there is the kitchen. Here's where we sleep. We're going to have enough problems with mice tonight. You don't need to be making it worse.
Yeah.
So
every time I've stayed at Molly's Ridge, a bear comes right in front of the shelter. Every time I've been up there, it just walks. They know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and people don't understand that. If you're back there in your sleeping bag and you're sitting there eating your chips or whatever, and all those crumbs falling, those mice are going to pick that up that night. And they're going to come in that sleeping bag with you. Or if you kind of, brush the crumbs off your sleeping bag and you push it on the guy next to you, then the mice are on him that night. And, I think people just need to understand that that's why those areas out in front of the shelter, why that bench is and why that table is there, that is for you to prepare your food and for you to eat your food in that location, not back there where you're sleeping. So I guess that could really fall into like shelter etiquette.
Yeah.
I met a guy on the AT that was, I don't know if he was through hiking or section hiking, but he had mouse traps in his backpack. And every night at the shelter, I kind of followed him. We kind of stayed at the same shelters 2 or 3 nights. And every night he would set those traps just for fun. He said, I asked him why he was doing that. It's just for entertainment. Which is
I think it's
crazy.
Salmon catches.
Yeah, I think his trail name ended up being like Rat Trap or something like that.
Maybe. It was about 3 or 4 years ago.
I want to think that someone told me that by the time he got to Katahdin, he had like 200 or 300 kills, like
Wow.
of mice that had taken out that many along the way. You know,
and somebody told me a trick one time about staying in the shelters, that if you take those glow sticks and you crack them open, that, you know, that's light and it'll kind of keep the mouse away. I don't know. I had a guy tell me that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've also been in the shelter with a guy that carries those little candles, and he like lit little candles and put them around him. I was like, oh my God, like, what are you going to do if you roll over? Like, look at all of our sleeping bags. Like, come on.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many shelters I've been in where I've seen those little candles, and it's like, and they just leave them there, you know, just the empty aluminum cases. And it's like, you know, that's trash. You need to be packing that out with you. Yep. And you have to go through and you have to pick all that stuff up. I've seen people, I mean, we've all been in the shelters. You've seen everything everybody leaves, you know, gloves or whatever, you know, I'm sure some of it's by accident, but you have like just junk. They just empty out their pack and they decide they don't want to carry something anymore. That's where it stays.
We were staying in a fire tower one time, and a thru hiker that was hiking with us for a while, there were mice all in the tower, and we almost didn't stay there because it was overrun. And he said, I got a trick for you. And it worked. And I'll tell you about it in a second. I don't agree with it because you're not supposed to feed wildlife, but he took a scoop of peanut butter and put it on one of the lower steps. And it was a big, you know, probably about a tablespoon or more of peanut butter. And he said, you'll never see a mouse tonight. And we slept up there peacefully. And every once in a while I'd look down the stairwell and there'd be 10 mice around that thing.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
I've had them come across my face, and I cannot. I mean, it raises me. I mean, I was like, I was the one
where
in the
some of
shelter
the scary stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at Wild Shelter back in 2016. I was doing my section hikes and stuff like that on the AT. So I stayed there that night because there was about a foot of snow and the ground was frozen up at the tower where I really wanted to set my tent up. But I ended up staying at this shelter. It was like crazy windy, super cold. It was probably like 10 degrees or something like that. And I was the only person at the shelter. I ended up having a mouse probably about 3 o'clock in the morning start messing with me. He'd come up and sniff my nose, and it's like, stop messing with me. And he'd come back and do that. And finally I woke up, and he went over to the corner of the platform, and I had one of those hot hands with me, and I just flung it and knocked him, and it's like sitting projecting way out that way. So, but at that point I was like, screw it, I'm getting out of here. I'm hiking out. And I ended up, that was actually the first time I actually night hiked by myself, which was kind of scary because the wind was blowing like really bad, and all you could hear is this limbs slapping above your head. That scares me too. And you could hear like limbs falling, you know, just feet from you. You just kept your head down and just kept going, didn't stop.
I wonder if that mouse has some beard material in his nest.
Probably does.
I'll tell you what, on the Wonderland Trail, here you go, Lori. I know you're going to go out and you want to go out and do the Wonderland Trail. I've never seen this. I've never had here you go.
You had to say
so the mice on the Wonderland Trail, they're real. They're crazy, first of all, and they're big. And they're not in the shelters because there's, you know, unless you're in a group, you're not going to be in the shelters on the Wonderland Trail. Now, these mice, every night, and I didn't realize what was going on until the first night we spent the night, they get in between your rain fly and your tent, and they go whoosh, whoosh, like all night.
Like running up and down.
Yes.
Yeah, we
and
had
I would
that,
I'd be doing this. I'd be punching them, and then they'd run over to one of my girlfriend's tents and she'd punch it. And then they'd run over to the next one. I'm like, oh my God, we're having boxing matches like all night with these mice. I have never seen that I've never had that until the Wonderland Trail. Never. I was like, these mice are used to, I don't know why they would they've got to be used to doing that. I don't know the reason why, but we were just punching them, and they were like rats. They were big. So obviously they're getting fed.
Mm-hmm.
And every night I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Then you'd fall asleep for a couple hours, and here one would come, and then, the weight of it would come down, and it was crazy. It was like a trampoline for them, really.
Yeah.
It was insane.
While I'm in a shelter, I'll open up my backpack, leave it completely open for the mice to go in and out as they please, open all the compartments or whatever if I have, whatever's there. And this way, I've had mice to fall in and not be able to get out, and they're just bouncing. I have to help them a little bit, give them an assist. But
the leader up here, she's looking at us like, I'm not going to say her name because everybody have to drink again. She's looking at us like we're crazy. Like we're.
But one thing I never do is I never put just raw food or my snacks in my pouches or anything of that nature, because they're going to smell that and they're going to come after that. And I've had so many people, I've seen them with their, hip pouch pockets chewed into, because that's where they store their candy bars and their wrappers. So, all the crumbs and stuff, and the mice pick up on that, and they just chew holes in them left and right.
Yep.
So I always say, put your snacks in a Ziploc baggie. If you're going to carry them there, put them in a Ziploc baggie, like a freezer bag, and seal that up all the time. If you're going to put your trash in it, that's fine. Seal it up. Then at night, get that out, hang it with your food. Or if you have, if you're carrying deodorant, if you're one of those hikers and you have to carry deodorant, then put it up there, or toothpaste, whatever it is.
Lori's got her shampoo, her soap, her deodorant,
conditioner.
Oh wait.
Nice catch.
Yeah, to bring it back to the actual topic, being an example.
We don't do good at that. We don't do good at that.
To be the example, we've especially, it's a lot easier if you're a day or two before Ultralight for Life. It's different if you're a day or two before a resupply and you're about to get into town and you've got some room in your trash bag. You can kind of be the example. You can go around, pick up trash in front of people. We've done that before. Use the little broom that they have in the shelters and sweep some stuff out. Wait till people get there. Do it in front of them, and then keep your area tidy, like Benny said. No wrappers, fix things up, make sure everything's nice and clean before you go to bed. And even though you may not have a presentation there at the shelter about trail etiquette and about cleanliness, at least they're watching you.
I like the PowerPoint presentations at the shelters.
Exhibit A.
Yes. It's like you have your little, laser pointer.
Right.
It's like, can you dim the lights over there? Right. Thank you. And you just start doing your presentation.
Yeah, that's when the guy comes down with and this is a true story. The shelter would be south. The first shelter is south of Klingman's Dome. I can't remember the name of it. You guys will know the name of it.
Double Spring?
Mount Collins.
Double Spring. Not Mount. Is it Double Springs?
So. Double Springs, the next one.
Yeah. So a guy and his son show up. Literally, they have a potted ham, and Christmas lights. And there's probably 15 or 20 of us in there. And they bring the potted ham down to the bottom bunk, start hanging all the Christmas lights. And a bunch of us were like, whoa, okay. Don't open your potted ham. Yeah, we're cool with the Christmas lights. The Christmas lights, that's cool if that's what you want to do. But the potted ham. And most people are like, oh, man, I am so sorry. We had no idea.
Yeah.
Most people, and I've had people say stuff to me too, when I was new to hiking. And I appreciate it because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had especially in the Smokies shelters, they get pretty crowded quickly, especially if you're hiking in the bubble. And I can't remember what shelter it was out there, but we had stopped. it started raining. And of course, everyone piles in there, and someone made a fire, which was okay, but the chimney wasn't working very well. So you had a lot of smoke coming into the shelter. And then people started smoking, weed. And then someone brought some bourbon, which I was okay with, but they got a little crazy. Someone had a big Bluetooth speaker and started just blaring music, and it went on.
Lord.
Everyone started partying. Well, not everybody, but that little group of hikers started partying for and we've all been there. It's probably 2 a.m, and we were looking for an early day out to get out. And so, we have to say something. I don't want to be the ass in the group, but I don't know. I got to say something.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I keep in my pack for shelter sleeping is earplugs. I always plug in shelters.
Yes.
No doubt. Yeah.
Earplugs and mace. That takes care of the hikers.
Well, here's the thing too. Earplugs. If you're in the
so you don't have to hear them scream when you spray them.
Yeah. I don't want to hear the frequent. There's always somebody. I carry that's a good one, Johnny. That's a really good one because I have that with me all the time. Because I don't want to hear anybody snoring.
Me either.
Inevitably. It's just no matter what, someone's going to snore in that shelter, or someone's going to come in late to camp, set up about 5 feet from you, and then get in their tent and start snoring. So that's a whole nother.
Or like in my situation, whenever I was sectioning through the Smokies back in 2016, I stayed at Mount Collins Shelter with these group of guys that were through hiking the AT. And we were staying with each other along the way because we had a deep snow. Nobody was going really fast. I remember staying at Mount Collins, and they were on the other side of the shelter, and this shelter was packed. And I forget the max on that one. I think it's 11 or 13 or something like that. But after everybody gets to sleep, I'm just kind of laying there, kind of waiting for everybody to kind of drift off before I go sleep. And this guy is having flashbacks or something, but screams out to the top of his lungs, all 13 are dead. It's all 13 are dead. And it's I know how many is supposed to be camped in there. So I start giggling a little bit and thankful that I'm on the other side of the shelter. So by the time, if something were to occur, I could get out of there a little bit. But yeah, this guy, had a terrible dream or flashbacks or something. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. And actually, I've talked to some of his friends because I've connected with them over the years, and they laugh about it too. They're like, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Matt Hippies put something in chat saying the whole shelter thing is foreign to us here in Colorado. Do you have to camp in or around the shelter on the AT, or can you stealth camp anywhere along the trail?
Can't stealth camp whatsoever. 0, negative. You can camp if you have a through hiker permit, but that's it.
Now that's just in the Smokies though, Benny, right? You're talking about the Smokies. Yeah.
It's just in the Smokies, outside the Smokies and the AT, and outside the Shenandoahs, and I'm sure Baxter as well. You can camp anywhere. I'm not going to tell you I haven't. I'm not going to tell you I haven't camped in the Smokies.
The only time I've ever stayed in a shelter is in the Smokies. Outside of the Smokies, well, that's not true in the Shenandoahs, but Shenandoahs has camp areas and things like that. Yeah. But the only time I've slept in a shelter is in the Smoky Mountains National Park on the entire Appalachian Trail. So that's what everybody I know people that'll skip the Smokies. They don't want nothing to do with the Smokies because of the shelter, but that's a shame because the Smokies are absolutely beautiful. So I know some people that, hey, they do the Smokies in 3 days because of the shelters kind of thing. So,
well, what we were told, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if the shelter is full, obviously you can't stay in the shelter. So you pitch your tent in a spot that's already been, laid. So, initially when we first jumped in the Smokies, our very first shelter experience, we slept in there, and that's what happened. We had the party going on, and Jams was not happy with it. She's like, I just want to sleep in the tent. And I said, well, I got a solution for that. And I don't recommend it, but that's what we did getting through the Smokies. We would get to where we were going and just kind of hang tight and have a bite to eat and just relax, about quarter mile from the shelter, and let everyone go in there and fill it up, and then just go pitch tent.
Yeah. And through hikers can do that. If the shelter's full, if you are technically a through hiker, which is 50 miles before the park and 50 miles after the park. Is that the regulations?
Yeah.
That's right.
You can,
50 miles in.
Yeah.
Yeah, which to me personally, I think that's kind of dumb. my 2 cents. You know, my situation was I was section hiking, but I was section hiking big sections. So I'm doing like 200 miles or whatever, but I'm finishing on the other side, north side of the Smokies. So I started like 200 miles back, you know, and here they, I had a conversation with a ranger or two, and they were like, you know, because I bought a thru hiker permit because I started back so far, and they're like, technically it's supposed to be on both sides. I said, but I had so much extra that I came in with, you know, that should account for something, you know. So to me, that warranted, thru hiker permit. Unfortunately, there's no thru hiker permit for the Benton Macaw Trail though. You have to save those individually, which we've talked about before.
Who does anybody know Medic Vance? It looks like Medic Vance has joined us.
Yep.
And are they actually a paramedic?
Yes, he is.
All right.
Right
well,
here
thank you for all your service and everything going out there right now. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I have a question on etiquette and sheltering for the group. Maybe something we can talk about, because I've heard different things on this topic, and it's like hang a bear bag or hang your pack. I tend to do both, depending on the crowd at the shelter. What do you guys think?
I just hang my food. If I'm in the Smokies, you know, we got the bear cables, so it's really easy. It's almost, there's no thinking involved. You don't have to look for a tree. You don't have to bring a rope. None of that. Every campsite, every shelter has bear cables. So you just go out, hook it, and raise it, kind of like raising the flag.
Right.
My backpack, you know, I keep it with me.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
I've done both.
We didn't.
Yeah.
It depends on the shelter. If the shelter were packed and we were in there or near it, we would hang both. We would hang our bag and our food bag together.
I've done the same, and the only time I've hung my pack is in the Smokies.
Yeah.
So outside of the Smokies, just food only. So never. I don't feel right without my pack near me. I don't know. It's like not having your purse or whatever. It's like, that's like your personal stuff. So I would do what was good for the group, what everybody was doing in the shelter. So if everybody decided, hey, we're all going to hang our packs, well, I hung my pack kind of thing. But if I'm out by myself, I don't hang my pack. Everybody's drinking. I missed something. Somebody said something.
Chat.
In
the chat. From Johnny. Okay.
Some guy named Johnny.
Come on.
Don't give it away.
So Matt Hippies, can you still hear us?
Oh yeah, you're coming through.
All right. Do you want to say something since you're here, even though we can't see you? Since you're in Colorado, talk to us about maybe some things that you see out in Colorado as far as Leave No Trace.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. You're talking about hanging bear bags. You know, out here it's a big different story. Because most of the Colorado Trail, for example, most of the trail is 10,000 feet and above, and we don't have the trees that you can hang a bear bag from out here. So you're left with an Ursack or a bear can. And we do hear a lot of people a lot of times, because it's so frustrating for them to try and hang a typical bear bag, they'll sleep with it. And we're like, you're nuts. Don't be doing that, because it's, you know, it's just going to draw attention to yourself, your tent. And even if it's not a bear, you know, something could eat through your tent and get in there. And that's just causing more of those small little critters on the ground to keep coming back to those same places. And we think about that every time we try to make a camp somewhere, you know, who is camped here? Because you want to use the same spot somebody else has used instead of making a new one. And you're always concerned, you know, has anybody else camped here lately? What were they doing? Was it a clean campsite? You know, you're always worried about that stuff.
That's interesting. So I'm not, I mean, I know what an Ursack is. So when you carry a Ursack, what is the protocol? Like how far do you take it away from you? That kind of thing.
Typical, you know, you want to take it 100, 200 feet away from your camp area. Normally about head height, we'll tie it to the trunk of a tree. Now you're talking about a bag that's made of a Kevlar type material. It's heavier than a typical bear bag, but lighter than a bear canister. It's resistant. You know, nothing's going to get into it, but it's still soft-sided, so they're going to be crushing things inside there. But you know, if you have it head height or a little higher, depending on how tall you are, we're kind of short people, so it's never like 6 feet in the tree. You know, the breeze is going to carry that odor away, but you know, you just can't tie it on a limb in a tree because we just don't have those here with the alpine firs.
Is that sack not like odor proof? I mean, I've never used one.
Yeah, it's got a liner that you can get with it. It's called it's the op sack, I believe is the name of it.
Got it.
That most people get. I've heard of other people actually just using the freezer bags, the Ziplocs. And that's essentially what an op sack is. It's just a large plastic thick bag with a Ziploc on the top of it to line the inside of the Ursack itself. And it's a very simple design. And that's usually what keeps the odors out. So, you know, I wouldn't advise getting a cheap, thin Ziploc. You want something really thick or even double it up just to take care of the odors itself. But, I mean, we've never had any issues out here at all. But, you know, you just can't do it typical out here that you would somewhere else. And it just makes hanging your bear bag a little different. You don't have to travel as far looking for that perfect branch because you're just looking for that perfect trunk, and there's plenty of those.
Yeah, and that's interesting too that you brought up, you know, looking around to see who's camping there next to you, because if they're sleeping with their food, I mean, it kind of defeats the entire purpose. And it's like, hey, do I have a conversation with these people? Like, you know, hey, I saw you in your tent eating, you know, that kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I've had a couple things happen. I just get up and leave because I don't want to be around it. So, in your experience out there, have you had to chat with anybody, or did you just kind of move on and do your thing?
We've rarely camped around other people. On the Colorado Trail a couple of times just because it became a tramley situation, people that we were bouncing around with, and we would just stop every now and again and swap stories all night long. But most times we just stealth camp on our own. You look for a spot that's already been used, and you know, you check around to see if it's clean, but you just don't know who was there before. But typically, no, we don't really camp around a lot of people, so we've never had run-ins with anyone.
I think a lot of it has to do with demographic too, and I may be speaking out of turn here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in our experience, you know, we've hiked quite a bit out west, and we've hiked quite a bit on the East Coast, and for some reason, well, it's not some reason, I know what it is, but the AT is very accessible, right? A lot of resupply points, you have a lot of jump on points, people can get on and off quickly, and so therefore, naturally, you have a lot of traffic, a lot of foot traffic, and there's nothing wrong with that. We want people to enjoy it, right? But you know, that comes along with, it's the law of averages, right? It's the law of numbers. So the more people, the more trash, period, end of story. So we've hiked Colorado, we've hiked, you know, Nevada, California, and I'm not saying that there isn't trash out there. Hell, we saw trash in Patagonia, but the influx of people, it definitely affects it, no doubt about it. And to Mad Hippie's point about camping with other people that are not as clean, we usually take suggestion and just move along, or try and make an example. You know, I have on a couple occasions that I can remember had conversations with other hikers about it. Hey, listen, we keep a really clean camp. I noticed this, and this. You know, would you mind picking that up, or I'll take it out for you if that's easier. But we keep a really clean camp. You know, we were all about leave no trace ethics and safety. So.
Yeah.
That's
And not only
another-
bears, because everybody thinks about bears. Oh, the bears are coming, but other animals come too. I don't want a raccoon. I don't want a skunk. I don't want anything.
Little critters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We call our bear bags, we call them rat bags or mouse bags, because that's what wants it the most. I mean, the little critters get in there at night and eat through your bags or eat through your side pouches, like Benny was saying earlier.
That's
And
one.
here's a question for you guys, and I don't know, Mad Hippies, if you'll know this. In the shelters, I've seen this in all kinds of shelters, and I never understood what people were doing. So in the shelter, a little string will be hanging down from like the rafter, and there'll be a little like tuna can, and then another part of the rope hanging down with a piece of wood. And I'm like, okay, who's hanging their food on that? And people do. I mean, I'm like, that's not where the food bag goes. That to me is trying to stop an animal from eating. And I'm like, why do they hang these? Because a mouse is just go walk right on over the can and go down to your food. Okay, can anybody answer what are those? I have never understood what those things are.
That's exactly what it's for, is what you said. That's what people think, that it's that little tiny tin can is going to stop an intelligent mouse that's been eating hiker food for 30 years in generations is going to stop. So that's exactly what it's for. And they should be taken down. But
yeah, and they're in a lot of the shelters, a lot. I mean, all from Georgia to Maine. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening?
I'm a little biased when it comes to trash on the trail, but just because it's not on the ground doesn't mean that it's, it's not trash. If it's hanging from the ceiling, if it's stuck on a wall, if it's graffiti on a wall, it's still trash.
Yep.
Agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Gwen said, thank y'all. Really enjoyed listening tonight. So thank you, Gwen.
Thanks, Gwen.
I wanted to put out a question to you guys and to the attendees. Like, what are your ideas for the next couple of topics?
About worst fears.
That's a good one, because you carry your fears.
Mm-hmm.
And fears can lead into
going.
Another segue, which is the scariest story you have on trail.
Yeah.
See, I like that.
Wait a minute. Lori does not want us to tell our scary stories.
Well, I gotta
Well,
tell
she
you.
had earplugs.
Yeah.
Lori does not want anyone. And I don't either. We tell scary stories, but we do not want to deter anyone from going hiking.
No.
Right.
Not at all.
No.
But we have scary stories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, whenever I think about worst fears, for me personally, I think about my worst fears on trail. My worst fear isn't getting struck by lightning, getting bit by a rattlesnake, or a bear attack or whatever. My worst fear is either losing gear or jacking gear up. That's it. That's it. Because I carry just what I need. I carry a lot of extra, other than my camera gear. But still, even at that, my camera gear is like thousands of dollars. So I don't want to mess it up either. So I always find it interesting whenever I'm out through hiking, I come across other hikers and I get to hike with them for a while. And you're just chit-chatting, going along. It's like, what is your worst fear when you're out here? And a lot of people, if I'm out west, some mountain lions, or, if I'm over here, a lot of people say rattlesnakes or copperheads or things like that, or bears, if they're kind of a new hiker, they're convinced that a bear is going to eat them, that they're on the menu. But I don't know. I always find that subject so interesting, because it's so different from one hiker to another hiker, depending on the level of experience. You can kind of gauge the level of experience from someone if, based on a lot of their answers. You don't have to ask them anything else.
Therapy session.
Right. And I've got two already that have nothing to do with animals or anything like that. Two fears. It has nothing to do with what you put in your pack either. So just based on what Benny said, I came up with like two things that scare me right away when I go. So I guess we'll have to wait till next Wednesday to find out what those fears are.
Other ideas?
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and say this back on that one thing real quick. I did earn a healthy respect for lightning when I was on the Highline Trail.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yes, you did.
Because on the side of Lightning Peak, we were real close to lightning, like probably the closest I've ever been, like in my life. Probably within, just a few yards.
But the question is Mad Hippies and Evergreen coming back with their fears?
Oh, absolutely. This is great.
Okay.
I could reiterate Benny on that one. We're scared to death of lightning out here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Colorado.
No question.
Coast.
Yeah, and when I was on the JMT, because everybody just all the research I had read, more people get struck by lightning than attacked by an animal out there on the JMT. So real quick, every time I heard it thunder, because you'd be hiking along and there'd be nothing, and all of a sudden there's like this huge cloud of death hanging over your head, literally, and it's just raining down hail and lightning bolts. Just because you're down in like a gorge almost a lot of the way, except for going over passes, so you can't see anything coming from a distance. And every time I would hear lightning or thunder or something like that, I go ahead and set my duplex up real quick on the side of the trail, jump in it, eat a quick snack, take a nap, and by the time I got done with my nap, storm's done passed, I get back on trail, push for more mileage. Sometimes I did that 2 or 3 times.
So are we sharing beers right now, or are we waiting?
We're waiting.
No, we're going to drink, and then Ina says, "Happy Mother's Day weekend." And thank you, Ina. I'm not a mother. I'm an aunt.
Thank
Garrett, my nephew's here. Hold on. We're going to bring him in for the end. Garrett.
And Gwen had a good one, how to handle injuries on trail. So we'll have to talk about injuries.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Oh, yes.
That's
Raise your hand if you've been majorly injured on trail. Yes, we can talk about that too. We're going to close the show with you, Garrett. Come on. Come on. We're family, so we're allowed to be closer than
What's
6
up,
feet.
Garrett?
This is my nephew, Garrett. Everybody says hey.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, Garrett.
Take care of your aunt.
All right. So yeah, water filtration, so many options. Yeah, good things. So yeah, we have a lot of topics to add to our list.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we'll see you guys.
Possible. Yeah. Water. Yeah. Sweet. All right. Cool.
Next Wednesday, same
All right.
time.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
See you,
Bye.
Mad Hippies.